Wink News begins with breaking news.
Breaking now at 11, all eyes on Tropical Storm Erica churning in the Atlantic and moving west toward Florida. In the last 10 minutes, we just got an update on the storm. The latest track is just seconds away.
Also breaking, new details late tonight about one of the biggest murder mysteries we've ever covered. 2 arrests just made in the brutal killings of a Bonita Springs doctor.
The Night Beat with complete team coverage across Southwest Florida. Brand new tonight, we're learning one of the suspects is very close to the victim's husband.
Also new tonight, we're uncovering how one of them was captured. A live update in just 2 minutes.
But first at 11, it's the story we're all watching very closely, Tropical Storm Erica. Thanks for joining us. I'm Bob Erzik.
I'm Amanda Hall. Brand new video shows a scary scene in the Caribbean. A woman screams as that building collapses on the island of Dominica. At least 4 deaths are blamed on Erica and dozens of people are missing. Wink News is the weather authority. Let's get right over to Chief Meteorologist Jim Farrell, who just got an update on the storm.
I did, Amanda. Bob, first up, here's a satellite picture. Again, no significant changes here. Still a very disorganized system. No change in strength. This is brand new information in from the National Hurricane Center in just a few minutes ago. Now, this is still a 45-mile-per-hour tropical storm, moving to the west at 17 miles per hour. Essentially, the 5-day forecast cone remains unchanged, and all of Peninsula Florida is in the 5-day forecast cone at this point. Now, we still expect this to interact with Puerto Rico overnight tonight, and then the Dominican Republic tomorrow. Land masses that could keep this a very weak system in the short run. It probably won't have a chance to develop and strengthen until it starts to move north of Cuba and into the Bahamas, and some last-minute strengthening will be possible. There will be less wind shear, and notice the water temperatures. Warmer temperatures indicated by the darker shade. So from some warm temperatures here into even warmer water by the time it arrives in the Bahamas. However, don't make any changes in your weekend plans. I'll tell you what to expect coming up next.
And as Erica moves west, remember, you can track the storm, see your hour-by-hour forecast and rain chances for the weekend on our free Wink News weather app. Download it for iPhones and Androids by searching Wink News in your app store. Our other big story, breaking new information just in about the high-profile murder of a Bonita Springs doctor. 2 men are now in custody more than 1,000 miles away in Missouri.
We have their pictures. Jimmy Rogers and Curtis Wayne Wright are facing murder charges in the killing of Teresa Sievers, who was beaten to death with a hammer nearly 2 months ago. Now in the Night Beat, Wink News anchor Chris Safadi starts our breaking team coverage from the Lee County Sheriff's Office, where those arrests were announced tonight. Chris, breaking tonight, we're learning how one of those men was caught.
Yeah, Amanda, we spoke with Teresa Sievers' sister tonight, who says one of the men was turned in by his pregnant girlfriend. Let's give you another look at the 2 men now being charged with second-degree murder in this case. Here they are, Jimmy Rogers and Wayne Wright. We're getting some brand new details about both of them. Sievers says Wright is the best friend of Teresa Sievers' husband, Mark. They've known each other since grade school, we found out tonight. Also new tonight, Teresa Sievers' sister says Jimmy Rogers was turned in yesterday by his girlfriend, his pregnant girlfriend, Taylor. In fact, in a text message to Wink News tonight, Sievers' sister called Taylor, quote, a brave, smart girl who did the right thing, and all of that goodness will come back to her baby, she says. Let's show you the scene again. It has been 8 weeks now since Dr. Teresa Sievers was killed, beaten with a hammer repeatedly inside her home on Jarvis Road in Bonita Springs. We're also learning tonight the sheriff has given us some new information about how the arrest came about of these 2 men today. Let's listen to what he said.
One of the most high-profile, complicated investigations that this agency has ever faced. The levels of expertise, the tenacity here is like nothing I've ever seen. We're very pleased. I'm very, very proud. Again, it was a great team effort and one that I've not seen in my time here, both as sheriff or prior as a member of the sheriff's office for many years.
I want to bring Wink News investigative reporter Dave Culbreth in tonight. You spoke with Mark Sievers, the husband's stepmother, tonight.
Yes, you know, Dr. Sievers had 2 daughters, about roughly 9 and 11 years old, and Mark's stepmother, Mark is the husband, his stepmother lives in Golden Gate. Tonight we went to her house just to see how the family is doing and how they're holding up after learning about the news today.
We are just looking to see if you've heard about some of the developments today with Miss Teresa Sievers' murder.
Yes.
Are you watching? People have been asking what is the situation with the children. Are you watching the children, or the children being taken care of and stuff?
Of course they're being taken care of, but I have no comments other than that.
Now, as far as Dr. Sievers' husband, Mark, is concerned, he was the office manager at her practice before she died, and today people told us that he was there around 1 o'clock this afternoon, but no further word on what he's doing or where he is this evening.
All right, thank you very much, Dave. A lot of folks in the neighborhood where the Sievers family live have been on edge since this happened, even though the sheriff's office has been saying all along that this was a targeted killing, that nobody was in danger. Some relief tonight as folks start to get at least some answers. Wink News reporter Sam Smink is in the neighborhood in Bonita Springs tonight.
One neighbor tells me they actually cheered when the second arrest was announced. They say they're ecstatic to hear that justice will finally be served for Teresa Sievers. All new tonight. For the first time, Teresa Sievers' sister, Annie Lisa, is sharing these special photos with Wink News. Reacting to the news of Jimmy Rogers and Curtis Warren Wright's arrests, she told me through text that, quote, "We all miss Teresa every day." Lisa says her grief will just have to be put on hold until this is settled. She says there is plenty of time to fall apart later. Lisa continued to say that Teresa was a pillar of wisdom for our family. We all looked up to her. These photos represent some of the best times with her sister. Lisa says the two were always smiling. Lisa says, quote, "I called her the older sister that I never had, and I was 5.5 years older. I've been relying on her to tell me what to do since she was 10 years old because that's how wise and amazing she was." Neighbors say Sievers' presence will never be forgotten here on Jarvis Road. They're happy to finally have some answers about her death.
I'm very pleased. It gives the neighborhood some closure. The neighborhood's been very upset the last couple months because they left us in the dark.
Danetta Contreras was one of the first to speak to investigators trying to help with the case.
A lot of emotions, a lot.
She had a message for the Sievers family.
My condolences for one thing, and now they can start to heal.
Her daughter, Kimberly Torres, like other neighbors, is relieved, but still has questions.
Want to know the whole story, want to know what's going on, the whole story. But at least they finally caught the person who done it.
Neighbors also tell me they have seen Teresa's husband, Mark, here, as well as the two children, but they have not spoken to anyone. They say the security lights that you can see behind me are always on. On the Night Beat, Sam Smink, Wink News, now.
Sam, thank you. Like that neighbor we just heard from in Sam's story, a lot of people want to know the whole story, and we don't know the whole story. We don't know if these two arrests are the only two arrests or if there are more coming, but we are starting to piece together more about at least one of the men arrested, Jimmy Rogers. Wink News investigative reporter Dave Culbreth looked into his background today.
Jimmy Rogers is 25 years old and grew up in Paris, Missouri, a small town about 2 hours northwest of St. Louis. According to court documents, he grew up with his brother in a home where his father had 43 guns, 16 semi-automatic rifles, 13 semi-automatic shotguns, 7 hunting rifles, and 7 semi-automatic handguns. His father died when Rogers was 17, and that was when his first brush with the law came, when he was speeding in a hot rod on a rural highway and didn't stop for cops when he should have. At the time, the judge expressed concern that Rogers could harm himself because he had, quote, mental and emotional conditions, as he had been on medication for adjustment and anxiety disorders. So the judge ordered that the 43 firearms that had belonged to Rogers' now deceased father be removed from the house. Since convicted felons are not allowed to be around guns, the next year, federal investigators raided the house and seized the guns. Rogers was convicted of possession of firearms as a felon. He wound up in the federal penitentiary known as Leavenworth in Kansas, which is where mob leader Whitey Bulger, NFL quarterback Michael Vick, and the man who assassinated Martin Luther King, James Earl Ray, did time. He got out in September of 2014 and was put on probation, which is the probation violation that Rogers is being held on now in Missouri. Along the way, he has worked as a welder and an auto mechanic, and according to his Facebook page, he and his girlfriend are expecting a child. In fact, they put that on Rogers' Facebook page the night Dr. Teresa Sievers was murdered. Also on Rogers' Facebook page, he goes by the nickname of Hammer. In fact, there is this picture that says, What'd she say? What the F are you doing with that hammer? Sources deep in the Lee County Sheriff's Office have told Wink News that Dr. Teresa Sievers was murdered by being hit in the head 27 times with the claw end of a hammer. Dave Culberth, Wink News Now.
I'm Adam Wright with the Wink News Nightbeat, continuing our complete team coverage. I just landed in St. Louis moments ago, and just hours from now, tomorrow morning, one of the men accused of murdering Teresa Sievers, Jimmy Rogers, will go before a judge in federal court. It's a detention hearing for an unrelated charge. We're still working to find out if the other man arrested, Curtis Wayne Wright, will be in court tomorrow. We could learn more about when these men will be extradited back to Lee County to face murder charges in Southwest Florida. Wink News has a crew in Missouri. I will be in court tomorrow morning and will bring you live updates throughout the day. On the Nightbeat, Adam Wright, Wink News Now.
All right, Adam, thank you very much. And I did a little looking on Facebook with the two men arrested today to try to establish a relationship between them. They are Facebook friends, so they do have some sort of a relationship, Jimmy Rogers and Wayne Wright. Wayne Wright also is longtime friends with Dr. Sievers' husband, Mark, and we also know that Jimmy Rogers has some connection to the Sievers family. We're not sure exactly what, so a lot of questions still to be answered. For now, live at the Lee County Sheriff's Office, Chris Zafati, Wink News Now.
All right, Chris, thank you. Still to come on Wink News at 11, a breaking update to the tragic murder of that television news crew in Virginia.
Right after the break, the strange items police uncovered in the killer's car. Jim.
Well, Erica is not strengthening now. Not expected to strengthen over the next 2 days, but will it strengthen at the last moment before getting close to Florida? We'll talk about the possibilities and a look at the local radar coming up next.
You're watching Wink News at 11, Southwest Florida's most watched 11 o'clock news.
Now at 11, breaking new details to the murder of those young, ambitious journalists in Virginia. Allison Parker and Adam Ward were gunned down yesterday morning by an angry former co-worker live on the air. Now the community is honoring those lives lost.
Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved.
New video shows people in Roanoke holding a Stop the Violence rally tonight. The parents of Allison Parker say they want President Obama to enact stricter gun laws.
You're at the end of your term. You've got nothing to lose. And I don't want to see another Allison and Adam die like this because nothing gets done. And I challenge you to join me.
As for the shooter, a search of Vester Flanagan's car turned up a Glock pistol, ammo, and a briefcase with 3 license plates, a wig, and a black hat.
Who can forget this? Hurricane Katrina. We're coming up on the 10th anniversary. Today, President Obama visited New Orleans and met with neighbors, calling them an example of renewal and resilience.
Because of you, the people of New Orleans working together, this city is moving in the right direction. And I have never been more confident that together we will get to where we need to go. You inspire me.
Katrina made landfall in Louisiana on August 29, 2005. That storm killed more than 1,200 people and caused more than $100 billion in damage.
Wink News Chief Meteorologist Jim Farrell joining us with the latest on Tropical Storm Erica and an update on our forecast. Jim?
Yeah, so far, so good for Southwest Florida. This remains a very weak, disorganized system, 1,100 miles away from us right now. Here's the most recent loop of satellite images, and you can see this does not look like a classic-looking tropical storm, and it has good reason because it is a very disorganized one. Now, even when we dial in the San Juan, Puerto Rico radar, I don't see any counterclockwise circulation here, which you should be able to see with radar since the suspected center of circulation is in this general area, but we don't see it on radar. So it's very disorganized, essentially just a rainmaker right now with a little bit of wind at the surface. However, National Hurricane Center maintaining that it is a tropical storm with 45-mile-an-hour wind, tracking to the west at 17 miles per hour. The 5-day forecast cone, a little changed in the last 24 hours, but since we're going out another day, the entire Florida peninsula is in the cone on days 3, 4, and 5. Now, here's what we have to keep in mind over the next several days. Tonight is an important night because this system is already very weak, but it'll come very close to, if not over, Puerto Rico, which should keep it very weak if it doesn't allow it to dissipate even more. Then, if it holds together, it's going to have to get through and nearby the Dominican Republic, another mountainous land area, which again could disrupt any attempt at strengthening. So this will probably be very weak if a area of low pressure at all for the next day and a half. Then it gets out over the open water on Saturday as the wind shear, which has also been keeping it as a weak system, decreases. So the environment starts to get more favorable on Saturday. No land in the way, less wind shear, and warmer temperatures are in the path of this system. As you know, tropical systems get their energy out of the warm water. Temperatures here are in the low 80s. You can see the darker shades here indicated by our sea surface temperature map, and that's upper 80s to near 90 degrees. So this will be encountering less wind shear, which is favorable for development, warmer temperatures, which is favorable for development. So even though nothing may happen in the next 2 days, really have to keep in mind that we'll want to watch from Saturday into Sunday into Monday. Now here are all the forecast model plots. I'll overlay those with the forecast cone, and everything fits nicely in the cone right now. Close-up shot here, and I want to just explain the diversity of the tracks. Now, some of the forecast models, and remember, these are just the tracks. These aren't showing you intensity, but I've researched all of the intensity forecasts, and these are the models that say this will strengthen perhaps into a Category 1 or 2 hurricane, and that's why it's more on the eastern side of the envelope, because the steering currents for a stronger storm will keep it eastward. These are the tracks from the models that say this stays weak. It's just some rain, not much wind, and it will be steered by the lower half of the atmosphere more to the west. So if that comes true, not a windy system, but some wet weather for southwest Florida. If this comes true, a stronger system, but farther off to the east, and probably far enough to the east so that we might actually have a decent weekend if that were to materialize. So keep that in mind. I wouldn't change any important plans for the weekend yet. Let's find out what happens after it moves through Puerto Rico, what happens and what condition it will be in after it leaves the Dominican Republic behind, and then we'll see what we're up against, and we'll have a better idea of whether it stays in the Atlantic as a stronger system or gets a little closer to us as a weaker system. Now, elsewhere, rain is not as heavy and has not been as heavy this evening as last, so we didn't have any flooding issues. The only rain that's showing up on radar right now is near the Collier County coastline, and even those showers, as you can see, are fading. But we did have heavy rain earlier, and we'll have some more heavy rain areas again tomorrow, and some of the rain will come early as well as late in the day tomorrow. So we're still in a pattern that allows for morning, midday, or afternoon showers and storms at a high temperature of 90. Now, starting on Saturday, now this is all dependent on the future track and intensity of Erica, but we're assuming it's going to be a stronger system off the east coast of Florida. We'll have scattered afternoon storms on Saturday, fewer rain areas on Sunday, a breezy Monday, and then we'll start to get back into a more typical pattern Wednesday and Thursday.
All right, thank you, Jim. Bill Halter joining us now. Bill, what's cooking in sports tonight?
Well, we're hoping for good weather tomorrow night for the opening of high school football regular season. This evening, crazy stuff in the Rays-Twins game. Both those teams battling for playoff positioning, plus a loud and clear message sent by the Florida High School Athletic Association to those that were involved in last week's scuffle. Wink Sports coming up next. The Rays were desperate for a win tonight, and they got it. The Twins had won the first 2 games of the series, but the Rays, they go up 2-0 in the first inning of this one. Logan Forsythe having a career year, 15th homer of the season for him. Now, Miguel Sano, he crushed the ball when he was with the Miracle, and he's doing it now in his first season with the Twins. Sano destroys this one. It might have left the stratosphere, but the dome got in the way. The ball bounces off the catwalk. It was ruled a ground rule double, and the Twins needed for that to be a homer as they go on to lose it 5-4. 10 players suspended by the High School Athletic Association for their role in last week's fight during the North Fort Myers-South Fort Myers preseason football game. 6 North Fort Myers players and 2 from South were suspended for 6 weeks. That's a message likely heard loud and clear by players throughout Southwest Florida. Fighting not going to be tolerated. The players suspended for 6 weeks will be eligible to return for the 6th game of the season. So a 6-week, 5-game suspension. The players who were suspended will be allowed to practice. Now, the names of the players suspended were not released. North Fort Myers head coach Ernest Graham calls the fight the low point of his coaching career, but he says the team has to learn from the mistake and become stronger because of it.
I'm a firm believer that, God meant everything for good, and despite what anybody says or despite what I think and despite any doubt or seeds of doubt that get placed in your head, you just have to take it and move forward. That's all you can do. We'll move forward properly and we'll become better because of it.
Shorthanded North Fort Myers will open up the regular season at home against Riverdale tomorrow. South is at Island Coast. Florida football coach Jim McElwain says that freshman Will Greer and sophomore Treon Harris will both get snaps at quarterback when the Gators open the season against New Mexico State next Saturday. Greer considered a better passer, while Harris can do a little bit more as a runner. The FGCU men's soccer team kicks off its season tomorrow night at home against third-ranked Georgetown. Now, the Eagles have won the last 5 Atlantic Sun titles, but the team determined to reach new heights this season.
When you're in the front here, there's not many people that look back. We all just sit there and go, okay, what's next? What do we got to do? Can we put another trophy? Can we get more hardware?
Coach Buthorn says the Eagles actually match up very well against Georgetown. Tomorrow night's upset bid will start at 7 o'clock. Now, Usain Bolt is the greatest sprinter of all time. Turns out you need wheels to take him down. After winning the 200-meter title at the World Championships, the Jamaican got upended by a photographer on a Segway. Luckily, everyone okay, but geez, that could have been a bad one.
Oh my gosh, it could have been. I mean, you look at his ankle. Oh, gosh, didn't even roll. Oh.
Bolt's the fastest man alive, and he could not run that slow-moving Segway.
We didn't see him. He didn't know he was there.
We'll give him a little bit of a break on that one.
Okay. Week News will be right back. Thanks for joining us tonight.
And wake up with Wink News this morning starting at 4:30. Have a great night, everyone.